The assault on the president. We'll examine the videotape of the shooting with a former Secret Service agent. Who's in charge? We'll discuss that sensitive legal question with former Attorney General Griffin Bell. What's the message to the rest of the world? We'll look at that issue with Henry Kissinger.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
Good evening. The latest news, all things considered, is reasonably good. President Reagan, after successful surgery, is resting comfortably at George Washington Hospital here in the Capitol. His press secretary, James Brady, shot through the head during the same assassination attempt this afternoon. Brady has now come out of 4.5 hours of surgery, and the surgeon says Brady's prognosis is certainly better than it was earlier this afternoon. Secret Service agent Tim McCarthy, also shot, is in good condition. District of Columbia policeman Thomas Delahanty is in serious but stable condition. We'll bring you the last word on all developments at the end of this broadcast. But first, we want to examine some of the serious issues raised by today's events. The president's security, the question of who runs the government when the president is incapacitated, and the issue of how the United States must act with regard to the rest of the world at a time of perceived crisis. But first, that now famous piece of videotape. Watch it and listen to it.
It doesn't make much sense, Henry. He puts you here and then he runs around wherever he comes.
President Reagan!
Back up! Get him out! Get him out! Down, back! Get him out! No! Get the ambulance! All right, stay back! Get the ambulance! Green! I got one hand. I got a hand on the He's in the car, man!
With us now here in our Washington studios is Chuck Vance, a veteran of 14 years with the Secret Service, who was assigned to the detail that guarded President Ford and who is now a partner in a private company specializing in personal security issues. Also standing by in our Washington studios is ABC News cameraman Hank Brown, who was covering the president at the Washington Hilton today and who took the pictures you just saw. First of all, Chuck, I know you wanted me to make the point that you are not here as a spokesman for the Secret Service, but it is obviously clear that spokesmen for the Secret Service do not appear on television, and you are a man who has spent many years with the service. We would like to take a look with you of that same piece of videotape that we saw just a moment ago. This time we're going to look at it in slow motion, and I would appreciate, Chuck, if you would give us the benefit of explaining to us what went right and what went wrong. In fact, obviously, some things were properly done, but there must have been some things that went terribly wrong. So let's take a look at that piece of videotape now, and would you comment?
Well, actually, I think you're looking at it from just about the viewpoint of the assailant. You're watching from his direction. The president came out. He's waving the crowd, as he usually did. The agents are around him, the staff are around him. All of a sudden, the gun shot. The two agents on either side of him pushed him immediately into the armored limousine, and the agent in front was shot and went down. The agents on the side and the police officers then went to the assailant, pushed him down, took control of him, took custody of him, and in fact protected him while he was there on the ground.
Chuck, was there anything was there any mistake that you could see that was made, or is this just the kind of thing against which no amount of safeguarding can actually protect the president? Well,
Ted, not only were there no mistakes, I think it was miraculous that they reacted as quickly as they did. If anybody's been in a situation where you've heard a loud bang or a number of bangs, your first response is to recoil rather than to move as they did. I think it showed their expertise and their training. The problem is this is one of the situations that Secret Service agents have nightmares about. It's a situation that our society has been, because it's a democratic society and because politicians and people of that nature have to move through it as they do and want to do it, that we're prone to.
Is there any way of protecting a president against an assault like this? I mean, is there anything that could have been done or that might be done in the future to prevent this kind of thing from happening?
Well, if you took a Secret Service agent and said, what can we do, they would probably suggest a number of things that would not be applicable to the politician.
For instance?
For instance, clearing the streets altogether. As you well know, that the exit where President Reagan came out of is very close to the main entrance of the Washington Hilton there. And in order for them to do that, they would have just about, in effect, had to close down that hotel. That would have been probably what Secret Service agents would have preferred. But in practical terms, those aren't some of the things you can do. You have to work within the parameters of our system.
What about a flak jacket? Wouldn't it have been possible for the president to be wearing, I mean, they even have these very light vests that people can wear now.
There are those things, but usually politicians, they have a number of bad points in the sense that they're very hot, for one thing, and usually when a politician or someone who's speaking in front of lights, as I'm doing now, you get very hot with those things, and unless there's a concern or a threat, a direct threat, usually most politicians will refuse to wear them.
One more quick question, Chuck, and that is, what about us, the press? We get in your way?
Well, that's always been a problem. The press has always been given special privileges because they have a special job and the rights of the First Amendment. But because the press is allowed closer many times, and I think this instance was one of them, the general public was also allowed closer, and maybe this gave a little better opportunity to the assailant.